So I mentioned last week that we were going to be focusing on one thing from multiple angles this Lenten season: trust, the theme of trust. And we went home with the question for our prayer time. Simple question, but deep. God, do I trust you? God, do I trust you? And if you didn't get a chance to ask that question, it's not too late. You can ask him today. If you did, and your heart told you the answer, here's the truth that I want to put before us at the outset of all of this whole season. All of us trust him and distrust him to one degree or another. There's a mix there. Hence the great prayer in the scriptures, Lord, I believe, help my unbelief. It's not perfect yet. So let's make that our prayer as we go through all of this, because this is some challenging stuff. It involves a real deep dive into the heart with the Lord in prayer, and it can kick up some things that are uncomfortable. And so we want to be dialed in, locked in to, Lord, I believe, help my unbelief. It's a process. Okay? This week, I want us to look at part of the bedrock foundation of what causes us to have some distrust of God in our hearts. And the simple reality is, it's just part of the system. It's part of the context that we find ourselves in. We're fallen. Yeah? We all know that. Heard it a million times. Very rarely do we stop and meditate on what that actually means. It means that everything you've ever encountered, every person you've ever encountered, and your very self are just not the way they were supposed to be. See, we don't notice this very much because we're just kind of born into it. We've never known anything else. We're fish in water, not thinking about the water. That's just our context. That's the fall. It's the context of our lives, and we accept it because it just is. But we weren't made to live in that context. We've just adapted to it. So like when a species all of a sudden finds itself in a different flora than it was accustomed to, over time it'll change, it'll adapt to the context in order to survive. That's a long way of saying our whole lives are lived in a kind of survival mode. And we don't even think about it most of the time. Okay, that's the first piece. If that's the case, then that means holiness, really living a Christian life, is pushing back on the system of adaptation that we've all adopted. We didn't pick the system, we didn't choose it. But we get to choose whether we'll adapt to it or we'll transcend it. We'll go beyond it. You with me? This is our Christian life. So in order to make that choice, we have to know, at least in broad strokes, what the fallen system is proposing to us. Like, what is it asking us to conform to? If we're the little forest lizard that found itself all of a sudden in the desert, what's the desert? What are we adapting to? Okay, let's look at Genesis and the Gospel of Matthew. In Genesis, the serpent, the embodiment of the fallen system, in his cunning, tries to get Eve to do two things: to engage a partial truth and to doubt God's integrity. To engage a partial truth and to doubt God's integrity. This is the pattern. This is the proposal of the fallen system. The world, the flesh, and the devil propose to us something that isn't 100% wrong. And then they try to get us to engage that partial truth. And then in the lie that's contained in this mixture with the truth, to doubt God's integrity, to doubt his goodness, his very existence as God. It's like you watch a movie, maybe not now, we're media fasting, but normally you watch like a movie, a secular movie, and in the movie there's some impure scene. You're not looking for it. It just happens to be in the movie. And you watch the whole movie. But later, that scene pops back into your head, and maybe a question like, what, are we not supposed to use the sexuality God gave us? Pops up. And in that question, we start to doubt a little bit. We might even immediately push back and say, no, we can use it. It's just in the context of marriage. Right? How do I know that? How am I sure of that? How can I prove that? And the truth that God has given us our sexuality as a beautiful gift is mixed with the lie of putting it in a movie and taking it outside of the context of marriage, and the seed of doubt is sown. That's all it takes. These are not like huge, crazy things. Like, that's all it takes. That's all it takes for us to doubt God's words and then doubt his integrity. And the tempter does the exact same thing to Jesus in the desert. He twists the scriptures, God's words, and then tries to get Jesus to worship him, to reject God's integrity as God. This is the pattern. He's been doing it since the garden. He's done it to us, and he'll continue doing it to us. It's important for us to recognize that context of our lives. So, what's the take-home message here at the beginning of Lent from this? I think the take-home message is we want to stop sinning in general, right? Like, we have a desire to stop doing things we know hurt ourselves and others. But we can't stop sinning unless we trust God. If there's anything that's a little wobbly there, then when the temptation comes, we'll just default to our desire rather than to the truth that he's given us. And in order to trust him, we have to actively, willfully reject every lie that could cause us to think, maybe he's not who he says he is. This is subtle stuff. This takes actual time in prayer and contemplation. So here's the question I suggest we bring to that prayer and contemplation this week. God, why do I not fully trust you? I trust you to a certain degree. Why do I not fully trust you personally? You see what it's getting at? It's asking for clarity. God, show me the parts of myself that have subtly disbelieved in your identity, your integrity, and your goodness. Okay? And do all of that. Let's do all of that with hearts that are not discouraged. Because we can poke into these things and think, I don't like how that feels. That's okay. That's a good and healthy part of the spiritual life. Don't let it boomerang back into self-condemnation. That doesn't help the process. We just note it, we recognize it, that we're all in the same boat. And we go back to that prayer, Lord, I believe, help my unbelief.